Today's little project, and I thought I'd share this. I made this little part. This is going to be for our Ninja. And let's be realistic, you probably could buy this part for 60, 70 bucks or something. But then everybody'd have one the same. So I would really like to have this. I made this out of 64th and 16th plywood laminations. Step one. And most important thing, when you're making a part, you're going to cover it with carbon fiber. Make a carbon fiber skin. This is what I call building a part from the inside out. So that at the end, we'll have the sand the surface and put a nice smooth surface. If we built the part in a mold, we would build it from that side, from the outside in. It would already have a shiny surface, so it's going to be a little extra work. But when you're only making one of a kind, or prototype in this case, and you don't want to invest in all the molding and tooling and all that stuff, this is a good way to do it. Now, one of the nice things, and I found this out, a couple little tips that'll help. You got to have this mounted solid. If this is flopping around on a table, you're in trouble. It's always a problem. I also, my WEST resin is getting so old here that I decided this will be the last part I make with that resin. I mixed it up. It's a 5-to-1 mix. And if you're off a little, it's not critical. It's not like Ippon or Huntsman where it's got to be right on the money. But the first step of this whole process is going to be to stir the resin real good. Now in warmer temperatures, this resin kicks off a lot quicker. So we're going to have about a half-hour working time. I'm not going to shoot a half-hour video. You'll be bored watching it as much as you are. But anyway, this is just to make a point, is when you have an antique bike, an old bike, a custom bike, something that you want to have a one-of-a-kind part for, and we have a part that we're going to do a repair on for a Benelli that you really can't buy the side covers anymore, the fairing mounts. So I'm going to show that at some near future time. But always a good idea to mix the resin up. Another thing, don't mix up a gallon at a time. The less resin you can mix up at once, the better it is. The reason is it generates heat from the chemical reaction. And what happens very quickly, it builds up so much heat. The heat, then it's like a nuclear reactor. The heat accelerates the curing, which accelerates the heat, which accelerates the curing, and all of a sudden you're in Iran and the terrorists are winning. So in this case, I would just want to put on a couple layers of this carbon fiber, which will make this part very rigid. It's very light already because it's basically 64th and 16th O-Pee-Chee wood, which comes from Norway. They make model plane parts out of it. Now, this is step one, is to get this layer to bond. This is always the critical thing. The other good trick is always get the material cut ahead of time. Don't wait until you have it, where you're ready to lay the part up or do whatever you're going to do. And in this case, I want to get this, since we're not going to see this layer, this is not critical. This is going to be and this is not a structural part. If it was a structural part, meaning that it was going to support the weight of, of your girlfriend or something, I would make it out of Ippon. But because it's just going to be really a cosmetic part, this is basically going to be a cosmetic covering of carbon fiber. And when we're done, we'll try to put a nice shiny finish on it. But the trick is each layer, get it good and wet. Because each layer, like a salami sandwich, it has to bond to the layer underneath it. I try to get out any extra hair. The reason is these brushes are cheap. Probably come from Harbor Freight or something. Actually, they're basting brushes. They're very inexpensive. Anyway, I've got all 5 of my layers all pre-cut, which makes the layup nice and easy. And it's only the last layer that I want to make sure I have the weave exactly the way I want it. Because all these layers are basically going to get realistically they're going to just get buried. And this is herringbone carbon fiber. You can buy this, if you're real careful, under $50 a yard, even on eBay. The WEST System resin, last time I bought it, which was a long time ago, I'm afraid to even speculate what the price of anything is now. Has anybody noticed gas that was $4 a gallon is now, I filled up the other day at $1.99. Well, it's half price. Then I went to Motorcycle Mall to buy a case of oil. Guess what? Oil is exactly the same price. You think we're getting ripped off? Nah. How could you say that? But it's funny how Cheerios is another thing. We eat a lot of Cheerios in the family. The baby likes Cheerios. I like Cheerios. You go to one store and the price is half of what it is in the other store. No idea what it is. Anyway, we're going to just keep laying these up. It's not a super critical thing until we get to the last layer. All of these, we got plenty of overage. It's always a good idea too. The material is, it's not that expensive that you have to salvage every square inch of it, so I like to make the pieces big enough that I don't have to worry about it. Now, everything from here back we're not going to see, and there's a piece of steel goes on top of that. Luckily, when I laid this out, there's a piece on the original bike that had the perfect bolt pattern. It's in the perfect place. Because what I did, I modified the seat. The seat is in a different position, very slightly, but it's still enough. I got rid of the lock. Normally you need a key to take the seat, to open the seat up, and that's a pain in the neck too. I'm trying to make this bike more fun and less of a pain to ride. Or if you lose the key, you can't get in the seat. Or whatever. Anyway, I made a little carbon fiber little lever there that took the place of that. Plus, it was funny that the lock probably weighs, 3 ounces or something. Now I'm going to use up all this carbon fiber because we basically... when this dries, now if it was a sunny day outside, if this was a summer sunny day, the trick would be to do this outside in the sun. The sun would just kick this part off, and once it's laid up, you don't want to do it in the sun while you're laying it up, unless you're a real fast worker, and of course, I'm not. Slow but steady wins the race. But anyway, a lot of people have never seen a part like this just laid up. I think it'd be fun. It's going to include the license plate and the Yamaha blinkers that I have from the R1. Now I know some people are going to say, Luciano's even say, why don't you get these little baby blinkers, these little tiny things? Yeah, they're nice until you're riding with somebody behind you that they go to pass you, and we've had it happen already. So there was a day, I won't mention any names, riding with somebody who didn't know I was going to make a right turn or left turn and went flying by me. And we almost, nothing good was going to happen. I went home and took the little blinkers off the bike and put big blinkers on. No more little blinkers. I'm not sure if that was really a lifesaver, but I don't care. It's better, in my case, just to quit while you're ahead. Okay, now this is the part we're going to see, so I like to get the grain on. Make sure I got plenty of overage. Because once this cures out, I'll trim it. Once I'm done trimming it, then I've got to go around the edge with a black ink marker and then put the final finish on. I want to get the weave just real nice here because you will see this, except for where the license plate actually is. It looks like we'll have enough resin. By the way, when this resin gets old, which this is probably 10 years old already, it turns a little whitish. The hardener turns maroon. The resin itself, you can just fill your sink with a big pot with boiling water and let it sit in there for 5-10 minutes, and it liquefies again because, of course, all of this stuff wants to become a crystal. And this will, hey, we're just going to have enough resin. We're just going to have enough time. And when this part is all finished, I'll take some, let it sit overnight. There's no reason to even try to cure it in a hurry because we have so much other stuff to do around here. But laying up a part that you want to put a cosmetic carbon fiber skin on, this is all that's involved. And the material you need to do it to do a part is probably less than $100 if you wanted to do a seat cowl or a fender. And it's just incredible what they charge you. Now, of course, I'm cheap. I don't want to pay. I'd rather spend my money on my grandson. Okay, now that we have all the resin on, now I have a trowel. Doesn't matter if you do it with a brush, a trowel, a business card. I can just start to take some of it off. And this part is the part that will make the finishing, come on, just a little bit easier. It'll make the parts lay down, the layers bond together, like a bologna sandwich that you drive over with a car. And again, I want this top layer to be as nice as possible. We will see around the edge of the license plate and around the edge of the tail light. Now this gets the majority of it off. This gets the big stuff off. And I don't want to, see, if we were making an aircraft part, I'd be pressing down or even vacuum bagging this to get out the extra resin. But on a motorcycle part or a part like this, really not that necessary. And when Dave Midgley and I used to vacuum bag a lot of carbon fiber stuff, well, you could get out a lot of resin, but really not necessary, this kind of a project. And when it's dry, I'll trim it with a Dremel saw. You can trim it, get the big rough stuff off with scissors. They make special tools. I don't have one right now, but probably in the future I'll get one. Okay, now once that resin is down, like so, I really don't care about the rest of the resin as the paper flies away. Now I want to get out an ordinary business card with the shiny side facing the resin. Is a good way to get it to really lay down nice. And as you do this, you notice, wow, I'm getting more resin off every time I do it. And every time, now, there's no point in doing this on camera for half an hour, but I will probably spend half an hour. At which time this resin is going to start to go from a liquid to something like peanut butter. First it goes to mayonnaise and into peanut butter. And those really are the terms you use in the world of composite stuff. How do I know? How does Santa Claus know who has the red nose? Anyway. Alright, so I'm pretty happy the way this laid out. Now, and of course I'm going to put this aside to dry for an overnight dry cycle. If it were summer, I'd put it outside, but it's not summer. When I'm done, this will be hopefully very rigid. And by the way, WEST System resin is actually made to laminate fiberglass material, e-glass or whatever, Kevlar, to wood. So in this case, we're actually doing exactly what WEST Systems resin is made for. And if you do the little babysitting thing here, you can get out all the little hairs that have just from that cheesy brush. And see, the advantage of having it lay down nice and flat like this with all the extra resin out, I can block sand it out without going through the weave and making the weave look, and this of course a herringbone weave is really nice looking when it's done. Now I made one for the R1, I did it backwards. I made the mold, I made one for the FZR and the R1, they're exactly the same, just different tail lights. And I know you can get these real LED lights that are very, very bright for about $15 in Walmart. I don't see any reason to buy anything from a dealer where it's 5 times the price. They are bright. And it really is a super dangerous thing. I think it's even more dangerous than what I'm saying. To be following somebody that doesn't have a bright enough tail light or a brake light that doesn't work, or you just, when we're riding aggressively and maybe dreaming about passing Valentino Rossi or whatever, I like to see if that brake light comes on, I know, uh-oh. In the case, several times I've been riding with Luciano and a deer has run out in front of us, and if the first guy sees him, great. If the first guy sees him, hits the brake, second guy doesn't see the brake light, ruin your whole day. Anyway, now it's just starting to tack up now, so there's no point letting the camera run here forever, but this part is now pretty much ready to dry. And that's what goes into laying up a simple carbon fiber layup.